All right, all right. Hey, everybody, how's it going? We got the No More 9 to 5 Club in the house. Apparently, we're streaming all over the world, so welcome. This is going to be a fun session tonight. We're going to be talking about something from this book you might have heard of, Think and Grow Rich. And we've been going through this thing. We're in the 14th chapter. It's all about the sixth sense, which is the 13th step to riches. I love every single one of these chapters. They all come together. They're all like a big giant. They do work together. They're all big pillars. So, but this is something I feel like most people don't really realize they're missing. It's not because they're lazy or not because they're incapable, but stuck because logic alone can't guide you forward anymore. Sometimes logic, you're like, okay, logic's not giving me the answer. So this is where the sixth sense comes in. Now, I'll tell you all about it. It's going to be a lot of fun. In the last chapter, I want to kind of recap a little bit to set the stage for tonight. In the last chapter, we talked about the brain, right? How it broadcasts, how it receives, how thoughts carry frequency, right? Now, kind of like we were talking about, you can think of the brain like a high-powered engine, right? But here's the thing. Um, no one talks about an engine without navigation, right? So if we don't have a good navigation system, we're just going to burn fuel and drive all over the place. So really what we're going to be talking about tonight is how the navigation system is the sixth sense. So, you know, we are, I guess you guys would probably agree with me here, but we're living in a time, right, where there's more information than ever. There's also more confusion than ever. There's more podcasts, there's more opinions, there's more strategies, there's more experts. I mean, everybody's an expert on so many different things. There's all this AI stuff happening, which is all exciting, but probably for some people a little overwhelming. But I do see a sense of people feeling a little less certain and sometimes a little less confident, maybe overwhelmed. And why? Well, because more information does not necessarily create clarity. Guidance does. Guidance is so important. So if you think it in terms of the rat race, we like to say at the number 9 to 5 club, the rat race trains people to overthink everything, wait for certainty, play it safe, ask for permission, right? React instead of choose. But the people who actually get out of that whole rat race thing, they almost always say something interesting. They'll say things like this. Have you guys ever said this yourself or heard someone say this? They'll be like, I just knew it was time, right? Something just told me to move, or I don't know. I couldn't explain it, but it felt right, right? Guys, the thing about all that is it's not luck. That's the sixth sense. Some people call it intuition. But now I want to say this clearly because a lot of people, when they hear the word sixth sense, they're thinking like the movie, they're thinking it's like some mystical thing we're talking about. It's actually not weird, and it's not reserved for special people. Every single person who's hearing me right now, who's here with us, we can all have access. This is a natural human faculty that unfortunately it just gets buried under stress, fear and noise and distraction, and every human being has it. So I mean, um, most people are just not, they're just disconnected from it, right? So let me think. Here's a simple analogy. I got an idea. So think about this. You're driving, it's nighttime, right? And your headlights, right? They don't show you everything. They don't show you the entire road. They only show you like what's right ahead of you, right? But that's enough to keep moving, right? You can keep going as long as those headlights are on. And so the sixth sense can kind of be like your headlights in the night. They work a very similar way. It doesn't necessarily give you the whole map. It sometimes just gives you that next step. And that's huge, guys. This is huge. So, but here's the thing, logic, we have to be careful with logic. Some people are just very, very logical, but logic struggles with uncertainty. Sometimes you have so much information, you're like, logically, it's not wrong to go here, 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 here. Like, what do I do? And freedom lives in uncertainty. So here's the thing. So let's say you're starting something new, or maybe you're leaving something familiar, right? I have a very, very dear friend who's been in a certain industry for literally the last 15 to 20 years. Like, it's somewhere in that ballpark. He just switched to a completely different type of work field, and it's just different, right? So changing direction can feel a little off, sometimes. But the thing is just trusting timing, making a move before the crowd. These decisions don't come from spreadsheets always. They come from some sort of inner knowledge. And so a little moment of truth here. If you've been feeling like restless or unsettled, like maybe there's more, but you're like, I can't explain it, like your current path doesn't like fit anymore. Sometimes you're doing something, you're like, I don't know why this doesn't fit anymore. That's not necessarily confusion. That might be this awareness that's actually waking up. So think about that. So this idea of the sixth sense, it's not really about necessarily predicting the future. That's not what I'm saying. It's about observing or perceiving alignment. It's the ability to sense maybe when to move or when to wait. Sometimes it's when to hold back, or when to say yes, when to say no. And when something is off, maybe it even looks good on paper, but just something's holding you back, and you're going, man, there's something here. I can't explain it. It feels a certain way. So, and here's the thing. This is why this chapter existed. This isn't just something where you just chalk it up to intuition. Napoleon Hill wrote an entire chapter on the sixth sense, and it's a very, very powerful chapter. I recommend everybody read it, study it, read it line by line. It's there. He did put it at the end of the principles for a reason. So, it's not the starting point. That's another key point. Like, we started in the beginning, right? It's actually the result. So it shows up after you've trained your thinking. You're starting to manage your emotions better. You're clarifying your desires, right? You've reduced more of that mental noise. And so the sixth sense, as we call it, is what becomes available when your mind no longer feels like it's fighting itself. It feels like you're in this alignment, and you're like, I'm gonna go there. And so tonight, that's the idea. We're not just trying to believe anything. Okay, we're gonna understand what Napoleon Hill was talking about, and what with the sixth sense here. And we really want to recognize how it already shows up in your life. There might be times it's happening, you don't even realize it. And we also want to understand why some of these things we do when we get the rat race or whatever, how that can actually kind of shut it down. And we really want to learn how to strengthen it, and learn how to, most importantly, learn how to use it to move toward freedom and confidence, right? So yeah, it's this I remember reading this chapter. I'm like, what is this? Is some weird woo-woo stuff. It's totally not. It's very exciting. So, but before we go any further, I really want to clear something up. Because the moment, like I keep saying, the moment people hear sixth sense, their brain does one of two things. They either romanticize it or they reject it. They're like, what is this guy talking about? And neither of those helps. So I want to help us get grounded and clear. So first, let's talk about what the sixth sense is not. So I'm not talking about fortune telling. I'm not talking about psychic powers or superstition, um, blind leaps without thinking or ignoring logic. That's not what I'm saying. The sixth sense does not replace logic. It completes it. Logic's like the processor, take all the information in, right? And the sixth sense is kind of like a little guidance system. And so really, at its core, the sixth sense is more of a heightened perception, if that makes sense. It's really the ability to sense the alignment or misalignment of things before your conscious mind can even explain why. It's just like, it's just the feeling, right? You're like, why am I, it's awareness that operates basically ahead of the reasoning. To make sure I'm not missing anything in the chats here. So yeah, Linda, she says, listen to your body senses as the messages are always clear. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, we've experienced these things. You might have looked at something and there's something that looked great on paper, but it felt wrong. Or maybe there was something that everyone else thought that it made no logical sense, right? Maybe it was a business endeavor, an idea that you had, but something in you said, this feels right. I don't know why. I know it doesn't make sense, but I just know it's right. That's the sixth sense kicking in. And maybe sometimes you're like, I don't even know if I can explain what I'm feeling right now, but you just trust it. You're like, it's something that's there. And it's not necessarily reckless. It's it's perception. So when you look at what Napoleon Hill says, he described the sixth sense is the faculty. This is the exact words he put it. He put it in. Let me see if I have it right here. He says, um, "Yep, that's a so." He goes, the faculty through which ideas, insights, and guidance are received when the mind is properly conditioned. So think about that. It's the faculty through which ideas, insights, and guidance are received when the mind is properly conditioned. So the key word there, I think, is conditioned, right? Conditioned. This isn't like random. It's not luck. It's not magic. And the result of a mind that is, it's calm, it's focused, right? It's emotionally balanced. It's free from chronic fear, just constant fear, constant negativity, all that stuff. It's free from that, generally speaking, and it's aligned. It's aligned with purpose. so so the reason a lot of people actually resist the sixth sense is because they've been trained to only trust what they can measure. I only trust it if I can put it in a box. Do you know anybody like that? Or maybe some of you like that? You're like, if I can't measure it, I can't trust it. But here's the funny thing. Here's the irony with that. You already trust things you can't see. Follow me on this. You already trust things you can't see. You trust timing, you trust chemistry, you trust instinct when you're driving, you trust your body when something feels off. And this is really the same thing. The sixth sense is the same awareness applied consciously. So I got to make a very clear distinction here. Here's the difference. So impulsiveness would be more like an emotional reaction, right? And intuition is usually more of a calm awareness. Do you see the difference of those? Like emotional is going to be very, like, it's just reactive, and intuition is a lot more. It's calm, it's and aware, and it's more observant. It's actually viewing the situation and not being so reactive. And impulsiveness will usually feel really urgent and frantic, right? It's just stress, it's distress. And intuition will usually feel a little bit more steady and clear. So if you're feeling like it's loud and it's panicked or it's rushed, it's not really falling in that category necessarily. And if it's quiet and it feels grounded and it feels confident, you just go, I just know. I believe I know. So that's more guidance. I want to make sure I'm watching these comments. Yes, Jason here, he says the sixth sense has saved my life more than once. It literally can save your life. I mean, it's that serious, and it can save you from a very long period of a very bad time. Because have you ever done something in life where you knew you shouldn't have done it, but you did it anyways? Maybe when you were younger, maybe, whatever it is, you make some silly decision. You're like, I wasn't supposed to do that. I knew it. Or vice versa. You made a decision where like, I just know I'm supposed to do this. And you feel aligned when you do that. So when you think about it, if we talk about the 9 to 5 world, the rat race, right? The rat race conditions people to ignore this. And it's really unfortunate because it teaches people, don't trust yourself, wait for permission, follow the system, do what's safe, right? It sounds good. And over time, here's the problem is people stop listening to themselves. They stop thinking for themselves and they start outsourcing decisions to fear, opinions, or even pressure, right? That's where they start to outsource their decisions. I'm afraid, so I'm not going to do. Oh, this person's opinion of me is this. Oh, there's so much pressure. Now that's where their decisions are coming from, and it's really bad. They're not tapping into the intuition, right? The sixth sense, if you will. And why this really, really, really matters is if you're going to get out of that 9 to 5 world, if there's hope, if we're going to escape the rat race or whatever thing you're stuck in, it requires decisions before certainty. You don't necessarily get full guarantees when you need to make the decision, right? You don't necessarily get perfect clarity. I don't know how I'm going to get there. I just know I'm going to do it. I know I'm going to do it. I'm going to figure it out, right? We always figure it out. But here's the thing, you don't always necessarily know every single step. It's not necessarily a perfectly laid out script. And some people get so hung up with, I need to know how everything's going to go before I make a decision. You get stuck, you get paralyzed. But with this, you can start to get alignment. The sixth sense is how you recognize that that's the direction I'm supposed to go. That's what I need to do. I can feel it. It's in here. And yes, as Sahad says, take control of your life, your business, all that. That's where it's at. So here's the thing. I want to give you another analogy. I'm a big nerd about analogies. I hope you guys don't mind. But you could kind of think of it like a compass, right? If you could picture a compass in your hand, a compass does not tell you the details of your journey, does it? It just tells you that's north and that's south and that's east and that's west, whatever. And, but the thing it does allow you to do is keep you pointed north. You can stay north. You could be on the middle of an ocean, right? That's why they had compasses and they'd sail. So the sixth sense works a lot like that. It just keeps you pointed towards what is right, what fits. And even when the path isn't obvious, like I said, you could be in the ocean and there's waves all over the place and there's that compass. If you're off a little bit, you can adjust. Now, if you've ever thought this, I want to give you a reassuring truth. If you've ever thought, I wish I could trust myself more. I wish I could trust myself more. That's not necessarily weakness. It's wanting the awareness that we need to be restored. When people start to have fear driving the boat, you're getting in trouble. And maybe they can almost feel like, I wish I could trust myself more. I wish I could have confidence. I wish I could take that step forward, make the call, do the thing. And that's just awareness wanting to come back. So here's the thing. This is really tricky. You don't necessarily just try to activate the sixth sense. It's just there. You don't force it. You don't chase it, but you actually, the way that it works is it's more like you qualify for it, right? You qualify for it. And so what I want to look at is how mental alignment and then emotional regulation and then that inner stillness can really make guidance clear. So this is the really important part is you don't want to be trying to force it. A lot of people think, oh, I could just turn this thing on. It's not like a light switch, but I really feel like one of the biggest misunderstandings about the sixth sense is it's this idea that you have to try to access it. You don't. That's the good news. It's really something that you can turn it on. You can't turn it on, but you can qualify for it. So it's something that becomes available when your inner world is aligned. So if you're in a place where you're not in alignment and all these things are screaming at you, it's very hard to tap into this because you got a lot of noise. So we want to clear the mistake. Most people approach intuition the same way they approach effort. They think more thinking, more analyzing, more pressure, more urgency, just try harder. but pressure doesn't create clarity necessarily. Actually, a lot of times it does the exact opposite. It literally blocks it. And so this is a very, very key truth here. The sense is not activated by force. It is activated by one thing, and that's alignment. So when you're in alignment with your assignment, that's when this starts to kick in. So what kind of alignment are we talking about? Where can we be aligned? Like on a car, we know we need our tires to be aligned, right? That kind of matters. But with us as human beings, our hardware, the things we have to have is we need to have alignment between our thoughts, our emotions, our intentions, and also your nervous system. There's four things: your thoughts, your emotions, your intentions, and your nervous system. And when those things are fighting each other, guess what happens? Guidance gets drowned out. When they settle into harmony, that's when the awareness sharpens. So if you want to turn it on, we need to be regulating our thoughts, our emotions, our intentions, and our nervous system. How do we do those things? I mean, thoughts are something we have to become more aware of. Our emotions, find ways to like tap into the positive emotions versus the negative one. What about intentions? Intentions are like, why do I want to do something? Why am I going to, what is my intention when I talk to this person? What is my intention? Because the nervous system is something you just feel throughout your body. If you're like super high wired and you just feel off, I mean, you can breathe deeper, you can relax, you can, stuff like that. So I have a little bit of an illustration I think that'll help. So like, think about trying to see you're like, let's say you're looking down on a lake or something, you're trying to see your reflection in the water, right? If the water is choppy, you can't see anything clearly. It's just a bunch of ripples, right? The harder you stir it, the worse it gets. I'm not getting a clear reflection back. But when the water becomes still, the image appears, and your mind works the same way. And I know sometimes people have a tough time becoming still and allowing that inner voice to speak. So I want to tie this back to the last chapter on the brain, because we learned that the brain taught us that thoughts are vibrations. They're literally vibrations. They're signals. They're like radio tower signals. And emotion, I don't know if you guys remember this, but emotion actually amplifies those vibrations. Your mind is always, always, always broadcasting and receiving, broadcasting and receiving. And the sixth sense, if you will, it operates on a much higher, subtler signal. So when your emotion state is all chaotic, that signal gets buried under all the noise. It needs a nice clear channel to come through, right? So when your emotional state is nice and calm and coherent, the signal comes through. If you're dealing with a really tough situation, maybe it's with a person, maybe it's with your situation in your life, right? If you want the answer to come through, if you're looking for that sense to come through, that's when you want to try to calm yourself down and allow that signal to come through. But I feel like this is just so critical for people that are stuck in the rat race, because chronic stress is what keeps people in survival mode. Have you ever been in a situation where it's just constant survival mode? And unfortunately, survival mode, it can really narrow your perception a little bit. It can make everything feel really urgent. It makes the future feel threatening. It literally, it forces your brain to go on like this short-term safety. And survival mode has a major downside. It shuts down this higher awareness that we're talking about. So that's why you'll hear people will totally normalize that, though. They're like, oh, that's just the way it is. That's why people will say things like, oh, I just can't think straight. Oh, I feel foggy. I don't even know what I want anymore. You know what I mean? And I'll make sure I'm checking the chats here. Yeah. I want to grab these. Jason says making decisions as a reaction isn't where it's at. The calm needed to be proactive is the same calm that allows the sixth sense to be felt. Yes, right. And so how you said If you do what you love for a living, you'll never work a day in your life, fight or flight. That's right. If we're not doing something we love, the possibility of feeling overwhelmed and feeling these things can really, it happens a lot. So here's the thing though, people that are experiencing those thoughts, I feel foggy, I don't want anything anymore. It's not because they're broken. So if you felt these things, you're not broken. It's because your nervous system is overloaded. That's mainly what it is. So alignment doesn't necessarily mean your life has to be perfect, by the way, guys. It's not that, but it means your inner signals are no longer at war. If war is going on in your head, like that's where things get really rough. And, you know, your thoughts aren't fighting your emotions, your desires aren't fighting your fears, your body isn't stuck in this constant alert, right? Alignment is more of an internal cooperation. So I want to talk about two different things. They're very polarizing. You got faith over here on one hand, and then fear over here on the other hand, right? So there's a subtle distinction between these two. So fear usually tightens awareness, and then faith expands awareness. See, if you want to open things up, faith versus fear. So fear is going to make your mind, your brain scan for danger. It's looking for danger. I don't know if you realize this, guys, but if you've ever looked into the reticular activating system, it's a feature we have in our hardware in our brain that filters all this information that's coming in. Did you know that at any given point right now, that there are 11 million bits of data that are coming in to your place, but your reticular activating system can only process about 40 to 50 bits out of that 11 million bits of data. It has to delete the rest. So this is where fear and faith comes in. If I'm operating under faith, I'm going to be seeing the blessings or the things that are before me. I could be in the same room, same place, but if I'm operating under fear, I start to miss those things. I'm deleting them. It's like I have a different lens on. So faith makes you more open to direction, and fear really makes you just danger mode. Your alarm system's going off in your head, going beep beep beep, right? So the sixth sense doesn't really speak to fear, it speaks through trust. So I want to explain something. Like, why do people feel blocked? Well, when people say, I don't know, I just feel disconnected from myself, or I don't know, I don't feel any guidance, I don't know what I want. What they usually mean is, I've been living in a state of reaction for too long, and constant reaction pulls awareness outward, and alignment brings it back inward. So, a real life example, notice when clarity tends to show up. This happens for me, by the way, in the shower. I don't know why my clarity seems to open up. On a quiet walk, I see someone, Sahaj, out for a walk, it looks like, late at night when everything slows down and you finally stop worrying and you can take a breath and look at the beautiful scenery around you, and you can really start to get that awareness, and that's not coincidence. That's alignment restoring your access. And so it's really important to reframe this. You don't need to add something new to access this sense I'm talking about. You need to remove the interference, all the noise. We've got all these cell phones and TVs and all this stuff coming around us. We need less noise, less urgency, less emotional chaos, less external input. And then we need more presence, more honesty, and more stillness. So again, the rat race, the 9 to 5 stuff keeps people misaligned on purpose. They're too busy to reflect. They got too many deadlines. They got work to do, too pressured to feel, too distracted to listen. Alignment is really an act of rebellion against that system. Alignment says, I'm here to listen. I'm here to tune in. So if you just take a moment anytime during the day, just take a big, giant, deep breath in, and just take 15 seconds, take 20 seconds to just unplug for a second and notice how calm that makes you feel. I mean, that's where you find the doorway. And we've had some brilliant minds ahead of us that would do things like that, that would literally take a nap in the middle of the day and let their self fall asleep. Then they would wake back up when they dropped the little ball, and it would wake them up, and that's where their best thoughts came. So, um, let me see here. I saw Sahad said, I believe in everybody except people with their cameras turned off at the networking events and Canadians. Oh, that's funny. He's poking at you. So listen, some of you might be thinking, okay, yeah, Emerson, whatever, but how do I actually know it's the sixth sense and it's not something else? And that's a fair question, because the truth is most people don't miss intuition because it's rare. They miss it because they don't even recognize when it shows up. They don't know that that's what it is. So it doesn't really announce itself. It doesn't like shout and say, "Hey, I'm here." It doesn't argue. It doesn't try to convince you. It simply is this presence of clarity, and then it waits. It's almost like a whisper, if you will. And in real life, it can show up so many different ways. It can just be a kind of like a calm inner knowing. It could be just a quiet certainty without proof. I feel quietly confident that this is going to work out. Or it might be a sense of alignment or a sense of misalignment, like we talked about before, or a feeling that this fits or it doesn't fit. I mean, clarity that doesn't really need explanation. So it doesn't usually come with anxiety. It doesn't usually feel rushed, and it doesn't feel dramatic. It feels settled. So if we want to contrast that, think about fear, right? Fear sounds very different. What does fear sound like? Fear is what if this fails? Oh my gosh. Well, what if I'm wrong? What if I miss out? Or what if I regret this? Fear is loud. It's like the alarm is going off. It's urgent. It demands immediate action over avoidance. It's really the sixth sense is quiet. Fear is noisy. So, I mean, if you wanted to try to ground this in some real situations, think about this. Let's say you had an opportunity for a job or a business opportunity and it looked great, but something fell off. You're like, I don't know, it just feels weird. Um, Maybe a decision that felt even right, even though it scared you. How many people have done something that scared you, but you're like, I'm going to do it. I know I'm supposed to do it. Or maybe you knew it was time to leave something behind, maybe a friendship, maybe a relationship, maybe a job, maybe a business. I don't know, something like you just knew it was time to move on. And that wasn't necessarily indecision. That's more, that was awareness. So timing is a big cue, though. One of the biggest clues that you're dealing with this, we'll call it sixth sense, is timing. It often shows up in very interesting moments. A lot of times it shows up right before things are falling apart. A lot of times it shows up right before opportunities become obvious, or a lot of times it shows up right before the crowd moves. And that's why trusting it really requires courage, because it's usually speaking early. And a lot, like, why would people ignore that? Well, here's the thing. Why would they? Because guess what? It doesn't come with guarantees. It does not always align with logic. It doesn't always necessarily get external validation either. And it requires a personal responsibility. And the thing is the rat race and the 9 to 5 stuff just trains people to wait for permission and have all those things. So it's really important to understand it doesn't remove. I'm not saying that intuition removes risk by any means. It just helps you choose aligned risk, you know? So freedom always involves, in uncertainty. Guidance doesn't erase that, but it just helps you move anyways. So what is the cost of ignoring your intuition? So most regret does not come from listening to intuition. It comes from ignoring it, right? So people say things like, I knew better, or I felt it, but I just didn't trust myself. man, I should have listened. So that's not really hindsight. That's just awareness being delayed. It's like, I knew it. I knew it. I knew they were going to say that. I knew that that was going to happen. I knew it was coming. And so to get out of the 9 to 5 world, to get out of escaping the rat race, it's almost always going to require acting before certainty, leaving comfort before it collapses, trusting direction before your results even show up, right? And maybe even choosing alignment over approval. And you have to see, like, those decisions don't necessarily come from spreadsheets. They just come from this inner clarity. So if you've ever doubted your intuition, it's not because you don't have it. It's just because you were trained not to trust it. So you might be someone who's very skeptical of your intuition that you have. So, I mean, take a moment and think about it. A time you knew something, you didn't listen. No guilt, no judgment, just awareness. But just think about it. So yeah, and you know, it's this is it. Let me ask you this. By now, it should be pretty clear that this thing isn't. It's not rare. But the real question comes: why do so many intelligent, capable people feel disconnected from this intuition, this sixth sense? And I keep saying this, but the answer isn't a lack of ability. It's actually a lifestyle that blocks awareness. It's a lifestyle thing. So the real core problem is, when we're into that rat race, the 9 to 5 thing, it doesn't just consume time, it consumes your attention. And whatever consumes your attention controls your perception. And again, I said it earlier, I was talking about stress. Chronic stress is one of the first blockers. So constant stress puts the brain into that survival mode. Remember, I talked about that your focus narrows, your body's on alert, your mind's scanning for threats all the time, everywhere. I don't trust this person. That can't be real. This can never work. Your thinking becomes more short term. And survival mode is really great for emergencies. If you're in an emergency, that's good. It's terrible for intuition, though. And this sixth sense really requires openness. Survival requires defense, but you can't really do both at the same time. So, again, I was saying earlier, we live in one of the loudest mental environments in history. We've got more notifications. I'm sure y'all probably have checked 20 or 30 of them by the time we started this meeting till now. You got news cycles, we've got endless opinions, we've got social comparison, we've got advice overload. There's no space left for inner listening. And so most people don't lack it, the intuition, they lack silence. Everything's buzzing at them at all times. They're trying to keep up with it. I mean, you should have seen my today. It was pretty crazy. But I think overthinking is the other thing. It replaces awareness. So, what are the pros and cons? What will people think of me? What if I fail? What if I succeed? What if I choose wrong? But overthinking feels responsible. Have you ever thought so much that you could never make a decision? You just kept thinking and thinking and thinking, and it felt responsible. But guess what? It never led to a decision. And that actually disconnects you from clarity. It's almost like you can go too far. You're actually procrastinating taking action or taking responsibility for moving with your intuition. So again, awareness is felt, overthinking is mental noise. That doesn't mean don't do your research, don't study, but like a lot of people are so stuck trying to figure out the how, they never get to the do. You know what I mean? Like, oh, how is this going to work? All these things, all this information. So we also have a really big issue with fear-based conditioning, and the system rewards caution. So play it safe, man. Don't rock the boat. Stick to what's predictable. I mean, over time, what happens is fear is what becomes familiar. And when fear dominates, guidance goes quiet, right? So the sixth sense does not compete with fear. It just waits for trust. So another thing is that will get a lot of us. I'm very guilty of this. I'm working on it. It was something I struggled with in the past a lot, was external validation addiction. External validation addiction. This is another major blocker because it's outsourcing decisions. People ask, what should I do? What do you think? Is this okay? Input isn't bad, don't get me wrong. But when you rely on others to make all your decisions for you to decide, your own guidance will start to weaken, right? And in the sixth sense, this sense that we're talking about grows through responsibility. You know, yeah. And as Linda says, the media is an example of fear mongering and hooking people into low vibration. Absolutely. Um, and yeah, anyways, another thing is emotional suppression. So many people are disconnected because they don't allow themselves to feel. They don't want to feel. They're numb. They're like numb to discomfort. They avoid stillness. They stay busy to avoid actually listening. And but awareness comes through emotion. If you shut that emotion down, you're shutting guidance down too, because a lot of times those emotions can help you really find what you're connected to. So anyways, when intuition is blocked, people wait too long. They're in a phase of indecision and they stay where they've literally outgrown. They miss timing. They settle for safety over alignment. And they wonder why nothing changes, right? You'll see people do something for their entire life. They never, take any risks. And they look at other people and they go, man, it must be nice. I wonder what it's like to, man, I wish I should have, could have, would have done that. It's like, you got to snap out of that. And so I'll just say this though, guys, this isn't a personal failure. It's just a conditioned response. So most people were never taught to trust themselves. They were taught to comply and to perform and to endure. So, I mean, just recognizing these blockers allows us to actually loosen them too. So the moment that you see, oh, this lifestyle is actually drowning out my awareness. Wow. You can actually regain choice with that. And so, yeah, it's really powerful. So, here's the good news. You don't have to become someone new to access your cool sixth sense here. You don't have to learn something complicated. You don't have to work harder. You simply just have to become more aware. I know it sounds really simple, but it's not strengthened by effort. I said that earlier. It's strengthened by a little more sensitivity, not emotional sensitivity, but perceptual situational awareness, just being more perceptive, more observational, and the ability to notice what's already happening inside you as well. You will feel certain things. So, you know, yeah, like you said, Jason, the media is a perfect example of negative distraction. I don't pay attention to anything out of my control. I love that too. It's like, what are you going to do about it? I think sometimes people sit there and go, oh my gosh, look at the world. It's falling apart. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? So anyways, a couple of things. We're gonna probably wrap this up pretty quick here. We're getting close to the end, but one of the first ways that you can strengthen this sixth sense is stillness. Not hours of silence, maybe not necessarily retreats, just intentional pauses. Like take a moment. Take a moment to sit back. Step up from your desk, walk away and just, go look outside. Take a big breath if you can. I mean, so because guidance does not compete with noise, it just waits for the quiet to open up. And so if you can make it practical, give yourself 5 minutes if you can do it. 5 minutes of stillness a day will make a huge difference. No phone, no out input, just awareness. And stillness isn't empty, it's receptive. You'll notice that your mind starts filling in the blanks and stuff starts happening. So another idea is awareness before action. So most people, they act, then they reflect. When you're using your sixth sense, it works in reverse. You notice first and then you act. So, before making decisions, ask, what does this feel like in my body? Does this expand me, contract me? Does this bring clarity or tension? A lot of times your body, you'd be surprised, might even kind of be telling you something before your mind even can explain it. So, Another thing is emotional honesty. So the sixth sense does not speak through denial. If you constantly override how you feel, you're going to disconnect from guidance. And so honesty doesn't mean reacting, it just means acknowledging. So like you could have more of a grounded truth where you're like, you can feel fear and still be aligned. You can also feel discomfort and still be guided. That does not necessarily mean, oh, this doesn't feel comfortable, I can't do it. Alignment does not always feel comfortable. It just feels true, if that makes sense. So you could ask some of these internal questions, like, for example, awareness will respond to questions. Questions are great things to ask yourselves. Like, how about this? Instead of asking, what should I do? Ask, what's being revealed to me right now? What is being revealed to me right now? What am I supposed to see instead of what should I do? Or how about instead of, you know, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? Instead, you can say, what am I learning from this? How can I grow from this? You see the difference? And so guidance will respond to curiosity, not pressure. Um, Here's the other thing, the small nudges. It doesn't really necessarily start with like massive life decisions, but it starts with these small little nudges. And it might be a conversation that you're feeling drawn to, a person you're feeling drawn to, and maybe a pause before saying yes, maybe a moment of hesitation, maybe a sense to just like, I'm going to wait on this one. And when you honor those small little gestures, those little guidances, clarity has the opportunity to grow louder and louder over time. You'll notice people that are very in tune with themselves. They pay attention to those little things. Some of us are just like just very reactive. We just do whatever we think of. And another thing, this one's big. Act without over explaining. One of the fastest ways to weaken your intuition is needing to justify what you're doing to everybody. Have you ever felt like you had to tell everybody like, oh, well, this is why we're doing this, and it's all this stuff. It's almost like it's like you're saying, I don't even trust what I believe in. But the thing is like, don't feel like you have to justify it to everyone. Not every decision needs a consensus. Not every move needs a validation. Quiet confidence strengthens awareness. So when you're building a big project, you're talking sometimes we do this like even with our own family, our own friends, you're like trying to explain to them your big passionate dream, and they just look at you like, interesting. And you're like, you're not necessarily, you don't need to do that. Now, if it's a wholesome conversation or something like that, it's different, but just be careful not to feel like you're over, justifying yourself. And we can tie this back to the rat race thing too, because the rat race trains people to react, stay busy, and strengthening the sixth sense requires the exact opposite. It requires presence, it requires pausing, and then listening. Listening is huge. A lot of us could listen a lot more. Like when you're in a conversation, listen to hear, not just to respond. Like listen to what they're really saying. Listen, it's huge. And that alone will really, really, really begin to shift your life. So here's some simple daily practices. I know we're getting close. You could do this at the end of the day. So at the end of the day, ask yourself, even if you have like a notepad, maybe put it by your bed, you got a little notepad with a pen. Ask yourself, when did I feel aligned today? What was I doing when I really felt like I was in the right place, right time, doing the right thing? When did I feel most aligned? Write it down. What were you doing? It'll help you latch on to that. Another thing is when did I feel off today? You might go, oh my gosh, I was talking to so and so. I just felt off. It made me feel negative. There was something weird about it. Pay attention to those little cues. They might be telling you something. And again, no judgment, no noticing. Awareness is all about you sharpen through reflection. And you know what? There's a big deal about writing stuff down. When you write stuff, there's a big difference than just thinking it. We have a lot of thoughts happening all the time, but when you write it down and you look at it and you read it, it's like there's a different connection. So I want you guys to know something. If this is seeming new, you're not behind. You're not disconnected. Nobody's broken here. You're just remembering how to listen to this intuition, this sixth sense that's there. Everyone has it. And so, like, kind of just wrapping this up, you're probably realizing something really important right now. The sixth sense doesn't just fail people, people abandon it when fear shows up. And that's the most important time to have it. So, um, faith, I want to talk a little bit more about faith and fear. We talked about it earlier, but like faith and fear are not necessarily opposites. They're just both responses to uncertainty. Think about that. Faith and fear are just a response to uncertainty. So fear could say, "Oh my gosh, everything's going to go wrong. What could go bad?" Faith could say, "I don't know the answer, but I have faith. I trust this is going to work out." So that's the difference between faith and fear. It's just a response to uncertainty. So fear assumes something's going to go wrong. It's bad, bad, bad. Faith says, the world is conspiring on my behalf. I assume that the guidance I'm getting will be available. Fear tightens and faith opens. See what I'm saying? So like the sixth sense really doesn't speak through panic. It speaks through trust. So anyways, if we're trying to escape the rat race, right? Escaping the rat race requires decisions before certainty. Remember how we said faith versus fear? Choose faith or fear. When you have uncertainty, you have two choices, faith or fear. So there's no moment, there's not going to be a moment where the path is perfectly clear. You might have to go, I don't know. I'm going to just have to go with those. Or there's no moment where risk disappears. You guys got to realize it's a risk to be alive. It's a risk to be a human being, right? Anything can happen, but are we looking through fear? Or are we looking through faith, right? So, and there's no moment where fear has nothing to say. Fear always has something to say. Fear loves to give you information. Fear loves to tell you how it's going to go wrong. It's your worst friend. It's the devil on your shoulder. And freedom requires trust while uncertainty exists. And that's why logic alone keeps people stuck, because they don't have the answer and they can't make a decision. They need to either lean into fear or faith, uncertainty. So logic wants guarantees. There's going to be so many things in our lives where we do not have a guarantee, and it's the best things in life that usually don't have the guarantees. And so, you know, life doesn't offer those guarantees, but it does reward faith, and it does reward listening to that intuition and really being tuned into it and being aligned with it. And courage. Courage is a really big word. Courage is the absence of fear. Courage is when you're like squashing fear, even though I'm in this tough situation. Courage is listening to what feels aligned anyways. And the sixth sense doesn't remove fear. It doesn't necessarily take fear out. It just gives you direction in the presence of it, right? It can give you direction. It can help you with the courage. And trust is a huge thing. So trust and guidance isn't something that you just decide once. It's something that you build through experience, right? So every time you pause instead of rushing, listen instead of reacting, choose alignment over approval, or acting on a quiet knowing, trust will grow in all of those situations. Trust is what grows and what causes clarity to get even sharper and sharper and sharper. You have to build more and more trust. So at some point, people stop asking, what is the safest option? And start asking, what's the most honest one right now? What is, you know what I mean? And that's when life really begins. Instead of saying, what's the safest thing I can do? What's the thing I really need to do? What am I most in alignment with? Right. And so, we'll kind of bring it back to this. Napoleon Hill, he didn't just teach the sixth sense so people could escape responsibility. He taught it so people would accept it, right? Guidance doesn't remove choice. It just makes choice more intentional. So you could ask yourself this, and everybody could ask this, where have I been waiting for certainty instead of clarity? Is there something in your life right now where you're looking for certainty, but really you're waiting for certainty instead of clarity? And where have I ignored what I already knew? Is there something you already knew that you could lean into and you're like, yeah, I I already knew. Where am I being asked to trust myself more? Right? Where can you trust yourself more? Pause, let that sit, you know. You don't need to figure out your whole future, everybody. That's the thing I can promise you. You don't need a 10-year plan. You don't need permission. You need awareness and you need honesty, right? And you need courage to move when the alignment shows up. Go take action, right? Because the brain gives you power, right? And in this the sixth sense we're talking about gives you direction. That's your true north. You ever hear people talk about their true north? I'm heading in my true north. So one without the other leads to burnout. So together they're a great team and they lead to freedom. So kind of closing this one out, the rat race thrives on noise, 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 urgency, fear, negativity, scarcity, poverty, all that stuff. Freedom grows in stillness, trust, clarity, abundance, faith. That's where freedom grows. And so, you are not designed to grind blindly. You were designed to be guided, and that's what this cool sixth sense is all about. We all have it. So I would just say, you know, you already know more than you think. So just start to tune into it more and listen to that. And, the sixth sense isn't something you're going to go find. You already have it. It's already inside of you. So it's just something you got to stop ignoring and tune into. And when you do, we can actually truly tap into freedom. We can get out of the 9 to 5 jobs. We can get out of that situation we don't want to be in, and you can actually begin to live again. So that's, in a nutshell, the sixth sense from my perspective. I still recommend you read the chapter. And anyways, that's the sixth sense, guys. And guess what? That's the 13 principles, actually. But next week we see y'all. We're gonna hit how to outwit the six ghosts of fear. What are the six ghosts of fear? That's gonna be a fun one, guys. I usually like to break them down one at a time instead of doing them all at once. There's literally six. I like to do them all separately. It'll blow your mind. It's really good. So that's all I have for today, guys. I guess we got one more minute. Does anybody want to ask or say one last thing to close this out? I don't know if Jason,
Emerson,
yeah.
I'm here, even though I'm off camera, going through some dark streets at night, still on the road. That was amazing. I love talking about the Sixth Sense. Like I said, it saved my life more than once. So,
Mhm.
what I don't know if I can drop any more nuggets than you did. What I want to ask is one thing, and then I'll announce what we're doing this weekend.
Yeah.
What is our next topic? Did we go through all the principles yet?
We're through the principles, but the fun part is this is something where you're not finished, and we have the 15th chapter is outwitting the six ghosts of fear. So we're gonna hit, actually there's six of them. We're gonna hit them all separately, and they all are worth like a huge deep dive. So we got plenty more.
Excellent, brother. So last updates, we're going to be going live more this year. We're going to be blowing the club up. A lot of good things are happening. Emerson, thank you again. I'm excited about the next Think and Grow Rich Mastermind and continuing to work with you. It has been a heck of a year learning with you, brother. I know the group appreciates it. So bravo to you, everybody. Robert Butwin this Saturday. You don't want to miss it, 1 p.m. EST. And other than that, we're going to continue to win and rock and roll well into 2026 and beyond. So thank you, everybody. Kudos to Emerson. I'm seeing a lot of applause. Thank you, brother. Let's
Uh-huh.
keep winning.